January 1st, the first day of the year 2020. People across the world, including Nepal, have celebrated the New Year's Eve with a lot of fanfare by organizing social and family gatherings, along with various other activities to rejuvenate for the new year 2020. Good morning, I'm Amit Pakril, and these are the top stories this hour. Ruling Nepal Communist Party fails to select its candidate for the post of Speaker. The meeting of the House of Representatives slated for today rescheduled for 12th of January. Progress regarding large-scale development projects more disappointing compared to previous years. Development expenditure stands at mere 11% in the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. People across the world celebrating New Year 2020 with a lot of fanfare. Europe, the Middle East and Asia follow Australia and New Zealand in welcoming the new year. And matches under the Martis Memorial 8 Division League see significantly low audience turnout. Less than 1,000 spectators show up at the stadium of 18,000 capacity. Let's begin with the national political updates. The meeting of the House of Representatives has been suspended twice as the ruling Nepal Communist Party has failed to take a decision on the name of its candidate for the post of Speaker, which has been vacant since 3 months. The ruling party has had enough time to decide on the issue. As the ruling party could not make any decision on time, it has led to the suspension of the meeting of the lower house for almost a month. The chairperson duo of the ruling party, KP Sharma Oli and Pushpa Kamal Dahal, held a meeting yesterday for almost 2.5 hours but failed to reach any conclusion. The meeting of the House of Representatives called for today has been rescheduled for 12th of January, citing special reasons. Earlier, the meeting scheduled for 27th of December was suspended at the 11th hour. Subhash Chandra Nemang and Sivamayakta Mahampe from the then CPN-UML faction and Agni Sapkota from the then Maoist Center are in the race for the post. The decision over the candidates for the post is getting delayed as both the chairpersons are endorsing the leaders of their favor. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is backing Subhash Chandra Nemang, whereas Executive Chairperson Dahal is in favor of Agni Sapkota. Similarly, it has been learned that President Bidya Devi Bhandari is indirectly lobbying for Deputy Speaker Sivamayakta Mahampe. The ruling party, Nepal Communist Party and Rashtriya Janata Party Nepal are mulling over power sharing for the post of Deputy Speaker, though both parties have not reached any conclusion. The winter session of the Parliament, which was supposed to endorse important bills, has been distracted in selecting the Speaker that would ultimately affect in the performance of the government. The Delegated Legislation and Government Assurance Committee under the Federal Parliament has directed the government to publish a new map of Nepal vacating the encroached land. The committee summoned Home Minister Rambatu Thapa, Foreign Minister Pradeep Kewali, Land Management Minister Padma Aryal and Forest Minister Sakti Basnet to discuss on the issue and directed to publish a new map including the encroached land. Lawmaker from the Nepal Communist Party, Bhim Rao, informed the decision of the committee.
नेपालका अतिक्रमित भूभागहरूलाई त्यस्तो अतिक्रमणबाट खाली गराएर र ती समेतलाई समावेश गरी नेपालको नक्सा तत्काल जारी गर्ने र त्यस्तो नक्सालाई सरकारी कामकाज शिक्षा संस्था लगायत सबै काममा उपयोग गर्ने.
Earlier, the State Affairs and International Relations Committee had issued a similar kind of direction to the government. Speaking at the meeting, Land Management Minister Padma Aryal revealed that India obstructed proceedings while grabbing the land of the Kalapani area. Minister Aryal informed that the survey will resume once the government takes diplomatic initiatives to sort out the issue with India. Home Minister Thapa informed the government is preparing to establish 105 border outposts at the Indian border, while Foreign Minister Kewali said the government has proposed a new date for the dialogue with India. And time now for a short break. For more news, do stay with us. Welcome back. After the break, large-scale development projects have failed to gain desired momentum despite the Prime Minister's directive to raise capital expenditure early on. The progress for big projects in the ongoing fiscal year has been considered slower than previous years. Premier Oli had directed the concerned ministries to spend between 50 to 66% development budget by the end of the second quarter of the current fiscal year, but mere 11% has been spent in 6 months.
The government had allocated 14.85 billion rupees for the much-touted Kathmandu-Tarai fast track. However, the project has so far only spent around 21 million rupees, which is 1.4% of the capital budget. Likewise, out of 1.61 billion rupees allocated for the President's Chure Conservation Project, one of the national pride projects, the government has only been able to spend 72 million rupees, which is 4% of the budget. The much-talked-about Melanchi drinking water project is no different, as the project has spent only 4% of the allocated 7.33 billion rupees. The expenses for Buri Gandaki hydropower project stands at 5%, while Babai irrigation project has spent just 7%. The progress regarding the north-south postal and rail projects has also remained discouraging. Capital expenditures stood at 15% in the first half of the previous fiscal year, which has gone down by 4% this year. The Prime Minister's directive to spend at least 50% of the budget by the second quarter has failed to produce desired results.
आर्थिक वर्ष सुरु भएपछि अनि ती चाहिँ टेन्डरका प्रक्रियादेखि बजेट पास भएपछि मात्र सुरु गर्ने सबै त्यसो हुँदा फर्स्ट क्वार्टर त त्यसैमा जाने स्थिति पनि हुँदो रहेछ एउटा चीज दोस्रो चीज चाहिँ मैले यसपालि देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ अर्को मलाई लागेको यो दशैं अगाडि पर्यो दशैंले पनि दशैं र तिहारले पनि डिस्टर्ब गर्यो जस्तो लाग्छ त्यही बेला भित्र पर्यो त्यो दशैं र तिहार पनि त्यो कारणले पनि काममा अलिकता चाहिँ कमी भएको जस्तो लाग्यो.
Experts opine government's tendency of starting new projects merely based on political influences has rendered large-scale and national pride projects ineffective. There is a call for the government to expedite development works to ensure the projects are time-relevant.
It's time now for the international update. People across the world are welcoming New Year 2020 with a lot of fanfare by organizing various programs. Europe, the Middle East and Asia have followed Australia and New Zealand in welcoming the New Year 2020. Fireworks displays lit up the skies as the country celebrated the start of the new decade. Australia celebrated with its annual fireworks display over Sydney Harbour Bridge and the iconic Sydney Opera House. Sydney decided to press ahead with its fireworks display despite calls by some members of the public for it to be cancelled in solidarity with fire-hit areas in New South Wales, of which the city is the capital. Taiwan launched fireworks over the Taipei 101 Tower, while South Korea and Beijing rang in the New Year, tolling bells, singing, dancing and banging drums. Hong Kong revelers welcomed in 2020 and neon-lit promenades along with the picturesque Victoria Harbour with small-scale pyrotechnics as authorities cancelled the New Year fireworks for the first time in a decade, citing security concerns. Meanwhile, global politics saw a handful of disappointing and hopeful turn of events in the year 2019. Here's a looking back at the year 2019.
If there is one global personality that has repeatedly made it to headlines throughout the year, it is US President Donald Trump. For good and bad reasons, each week, the US President made sure to stir global politics in one way or the other. The most talked-of event, especially towards the end of the year, was the impeachment against the US President. The US House of Representatives impeached Trump on 18th of December on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Meanwhile, India saw violent protests, with Uttar Pradesh being the worst affected, as 19 people reportedly died in clashes as thousands took to the streets against the Indian government following an amendment to the Citizenship Act. Civil rights groups have said the law offers amnesty to non-Muslim immigrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan while discriminating against Muslims. The Bharatiya Janata Party BJP-led Indian government, meanwhile, has argued that it protects religious minorities fleeing persecution and insists it is not against Muslims. The BJP-led government also revoked the special status granted to Jammu and Kashmir, further escalating the India-Pakistan dispute in August this year. Likewise, India's Supreme Court gave a landmark verdict this year as it awarded Hindus control of a disputed religious site in the town of Ayodhya for the construction of a Ram temple. In a first for the country, a Pakistani court sentenced former military ruler Pervez Musharraf to death for treason over his 2007 imposition of emergency rule. Likewise, Brexit was one of the hotcakes for the year 2019. Theresa May resigned from the post of Prime Minister, failing to gain majority votes for Brexit agreement, while her successor Boris Johnson's Conservative Party swept aside Labour in the general election, getting what Johnson said a mandate to get Brexit done. Hong Kong also saw months of unrest as hundreds and thousands of public kept up with massive protests against the extradition bill.
Another short break. For more news, do stay with us. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked the visually impaired people of Past 3rd District what difference have they found in their daily life after receiving training on using canes. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
हिन्डुल सम्बन्धी जुन सिप छ त्यो हामीसँग भएन भने हाम्रो जीवनमा अरु केही कुरामा पनि हामी अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैनौं। त्यसैले गर्दाखेरि हिन्डुल सम्बन्धी यो सिप चाहिँ पहिलो शर्त हो।
यो केन चाहिँ सिबिनको चाहिँ पहिचान पनि र आँखा पनि चिनाउने आधार पनि हो।
क्यान टेक्या हिँड्न सजिलो भयो, ठोकिने ठाउँ ठोकी भन्ने पनि थाहा भयो।
अहिले क्यान पाएपछि चाहिँ यसको सहारामा चाहिँ सजिलै हुँदो रहेछ।
कहाँ ठोकिने ठाउँ छ त्यो थाहा हुँदैन थियो। क्यान टेकेपछि चाहिँ के भन्छ लड्ने ठाउँहरू पनि सबै थाहा हुन्छ। क्यान सिकिसकेपछि हामीलाई अलिकति हिँड्न सहज भइरहेको छ।
It's time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Now the question is, why are spectators not attracted towards the National Football League? And options are A, expensive tickets, B, low game standard, and C, problem in infrastructure. The voting for the question is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Now the sports update.
Sports news.
Spectators have come in very low numbers at the ongoing Mortis Memorial 8 Division League football. The attraction towards the domestic league has been decreasing at an alarming rate. We have a report.
This is the scene of a match of the Martyrs Memorial A Division League at the Dasrat Stadium 5 years back. The presence of spectators in matches during that period used to be crowded like this. Meanwhile, this is the scene of a recent Martyrs Memorial A Division League match between defending champions Manang Marsangdi Club and Tribhuvan Army Club, which is looked at as a good challenger to lift the trophy. There are hardly 800 spectators in the 18,000 capacity Dasrat Stadium in Tripureshwar. The tournament has reached its 4th round, however, the number of spectators at a match has not crossed 1,000. All Nepal Football Association has even announced a prize package in a bid to increase the number of spectators by offering a chance to win a trip to a foreign country with the purchase of tickets worth 200 and 500 rupees. The organizers should also look into organizing matches in the evening to attract spectators who can come to watch matches after office hours.
It's time now for our special segment, Laugh Out Loud.
In what turned out to be highly controversial remarks, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has defended his government's decision to renew lease agreement contract of the Gokarna land with Yeti Group for the next 25 years. The government's decision in itself was dubious in a number of ways, as there were charges that the government had seriously flouted legal provisions while granting the lease agreement to the influential Yeti Group. The responsible officials for giving a nod to the agreement, however, came with ridiculous explanations. A day after Nepal Trust authorities on Friday said that the Gokarna land was leased out to save the land from being transformed into the grazing land and encroachment from landless squatters, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli himself jumped to defend the decision. Claiming that the lease contract was as per the existing rules and regulations, the Prime Minister added that the offer of Yeti Group was lucrative, thus any further inquiries into the topic was unnecessary. The accusation against the authority in granting the land to the Yeti Group mainly involved the accusation that the deal was done at a fairly minimal price, which according to the Prime Minister was a lucrative offer, making the entire episode more ridiculous. This is Amar Singh Pradhan for Kantipur News Desk.
And before we wrap up, a reminder of the top stories. Ruling Nepal Communist Party fails to select its candidate for the post of Speaker. The meeting of the House of Representatives slated for today rescheduled for 12th of January. Progress regarding large-scale development projects more disappointing compared to previous years. Development expenditure stands at mere 11% in the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. People across the world celebrating New Year 2020 with a lot of fanfare. Europe, the Middle East and Asia follow Australia and New Zealand in welcoming the New Year. And matches under the Mortis Memorial A Division League see significantly low audience turnout. Less than 1,000 spectators show up at the stadium of 18,000 capacity. And that's all for this hour. Keep watching Kantipur Television SD for more news and entertainment. Have a good day.